call, please.
Without objection.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, if you know anything about Michigan, you know we love our cars. We put the world on wheels, and we've been keeping Michigan moving ever since. But recently, this love affair has hit a rough patch. Nearly everyone in Michigan drives to work, to school, and to the lake on the weekends, and it's getting warmer and warmer to be able to do that. And high gas prices have made this Michigan way of life a lot more expensive. I'm thinking of the driver who uses his own car to deliver meals and other essentials to families in Detroit. Gas prices have gone up so much, he's barely breaking even. I'm thinking of the student who drives 40 minutes every day to attend classes at Michigan Tech in Houghton. She's training for a great career, but the price at the pump is cutting into the money she needs to pay her tuition and her rent. And I'm thinking of our farmers. Fuel's absolutely essential to power our tractors and produce fertilizer and keep the world fed. But income is tight, even in the good times. And in the tight times, the folks who grow our food can struggle to fill their own refrigerators. High fuel prices hurt Michigan families, our businesses, and our economy. And that's why it's so frustrating when oil and gas companies make choices that keep prices high to boost their own bottom lines. It's true that part of the reason gas prices are so high is because demand is so high. Thanks to President Biden and Democrats in Congress, our economy came roaring back from COVID-19. Now we've got all the challenges of the supply chains and the cost issues we are dealing with, but the foundation of our economy is strong, and that's a good thing. But a roaring economy requires energy, and production isn't keeping pace. It's not that we don't have enough oil. In fact, the United States is the world's largest oil-producing country. And we could be producing more. There are currently 9,000 approved oil leases that the oil companies aren't even using. Yet the oil companies have made a conscious decision to hold back production, to raise prices, and pad their pockets of their shareholders. One CEO even admitted as much last month when he said that his company is capturing value from higher prices for gas. Let me translate that. Capturing value from high prices for gas really means taking money out of your pocket and my pocket and putting it into the pockets of their shareholders. It's working for them. His company's revenue nearly tripled during the fourth quarter. And they're not alone. In fact, the 25 largest oil and gas companies raked in $205 billion in profits last year. $205 billion in profits last year, while price gouging now at the pump. And they used that money to buy back $40 billion of their own stock and pay their shareholders and top executives $50 billion in dividends. And they're not particularly eager to pass on any savings to anybody else, unfortunately. It's interesting. The last time a barrel of oil was $96, gas was $3.62 a gallon. Last week, a barrel of oil was again $96. But this time, gas was $4.31 a gallon. What's the difference? Well, the truth is, they set the price based on what they can get away with, arguing a global economy and supply and so on, supply of which they determine. And they set the price with what they think they can get. And that's called price gouging right now, taking advantage of situations around the world, our willingness to sacrifice to be a part of supporting the Ukrainians and what's happening, and instead of doing their part, to maybe say, okay, $205 billion in profits last year, pretty good. Okay, maybe we can do our part here. Instead, the prices at the pump go up and up and up. And it's got to stop. A single mom of 3 in Michigan is standing at a gas pump right now with a knot in her stomach, watching her bill go up and up and her monthly budget for everything else go down. So, that's the problem. What is the solution? First of all, the Senate Commerce Committee is calling for the CEOs of the major oil companies to testify before the committee. And I'm really looking forward to that hearing and what they have to say for themselves. And I want to thank the chairwoman, Chairwoman Cantwell, and the committee for their leadership. Secondly, I introduced the Gas Prices Relief Act with a number of my Democratic colleagues. This gas tax holiday is immediate relief, yes, short term, but it would save Michigan drivers nearly $650 million at the pump this year. I also think it's about time we stop subsidizing these oil companies who are doing just fine on their own. They don't need our tax dollars to subsidize them anymore. For more than 100 years, Congress has given major permanent tax benefits to the fossil fuel industry. This decade, they have received $35 billion in fossil fuel-related tax breaks. Do the American people really need to keep subsidizing an industry whose pollution is responsible for creating the global climate crisis, all the while enjoying record profits and picking people's pockets? The answer is no. And yet our Republican colleagues stand with the oil companies over and over again. I just came from an Environmental and Public Works Committee meeting on this very topic and heard over and over again the rationale for letting the oil and gas companies keep doing what they're already doing with no accountability and no real effort for us to move in the direction of clean energy where we need to move. And most importantly, it's time to shift to new, clean sources of energy. For more than 100 years, scientists have known that burning fossil fuels creates carbon pollution that builds up in our atmosphere and that traps heat. It just stays there. And for more than 100 years, we've just kept on burning fossil fuels anyway, and the industry has spent billions trying to convince us it's not really happening. We really aren't seeing the climate change. No, this isn't happening. Don't look up. Well, it's time for a change. We can start by using more homegrown and cleaner burning biofuels to save consumers money. It's time to allow the year-round sale of E15, a change I've encouraged the administration to make. According to the Renewable Fuels Association, E15 is 10 to 15 cents per gallon less than standard gasoline and cleaner. And there's no time like the present to accelerate our shift to clean energy production, which I know, Mr. President, you care deeply about, have been a leader in, and the use of electric vehicles. We know that part of that is moving to clean energy, electricity, power, as well as electric transportation. Both are very, very important. Buying an amazing Michigan-made EV means you can drive right on by the gas station. Don't even have to stop. That's what I'm looking forward to, Mr. President. Don't even have to pay attention to what's on the sign. Won't matter. And the exciting thing is we can take action to help make this happen more quickly by ensuring that electric vehicles are affordable for more families and, critically, that they are built right here in America. Not in China, not somewhere else around the world, in America. And I'm laser focused on making that happen. And the good news is we'll tackle the climate crisis at the same time, because the transportation sector is the single largest source of carbon pollution. Shockingly, a few weeks ago, a fossil fuel executive said this about his industry. Quote, "You've made a promise to be more disciplined about getting cash back to shareholders with these dividends. The question is, are you going to keep your promise, or are you going to be patriotic?" It's pretty clear whose side the oil companies are on, and it isn't the side of the American people. It's time for them to stop price gouging and try a little patriotism. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.